Hey there, listeners. Hola, amigos. Before we dive into today's episode, we have a very small favour to ask. If you enjoy our podcast and want to help us to keep bringing you great content, the best way to support us is by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. It only takes a minute, but it makes a huge difference because your ratings and reviews help more listeners to discover our show. And it keeps us motivated to continue doing what we love and bringing you more content for free. Plus, we love hearing your feedback. So if you have a moment, head over to Apple Podcasts, give us a rating and leave a very quick review. Thank you so much for your support. Now let's get into today's episode.
Welcome to the Costa Property Podcast, the podcast that turns your dreams of owning a piece of paradise on the Costa del Sol into reality. I'm Warner Laurie, and I'm joined by my co-host and wife, Sandra Laurie.
Join us as we embark on navigating the ins and outs of real estate and relocation to this beautiful region.
We're not just about market trends, we're about sharing real-life experiences, because we know the struggle firsthand, and I've helped many people navigate this challenge also.
If you're dreaming of your perfect Costa del Sol home and want to get real, no-frills, expert advice, then you're absolutely in the right place. Join us each week as we share honest insights and information that will guide your journey. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Costa Property Podcast. Got some very special guests with us today. First of all, let me introduce you to Teddy. Teddy is our little Shih Tzu. He was actually born in Spain, and he's joining us today because today's episode of the Costa Property Podcast is the pet edition. Right, Warner?
Yeah, it's all about pets, Sandra.
Yeah, it's such an important topic, right? When you're relocating your family members, your pet is a very important member of your family. So today we will speak to the lovely Amanda from 101 Pet Express. And 101 Pet Express is a multi-award-winning pet transporter, and they take moving your precious furry family members to other countries very, very, very seriously. So we'll be really jumping into picking Amanda's brain when it comes to all the things that you need to think about when it comes to transferring your fur baby. But before we do that, Warner, please share our Spanish word of the day.
The Spanish word of today is perro.
Good choice. So perro or perro is the Spanish word for
dog for
dog.
our Teddy.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Warner. Let's jump into today's episode. So Amanda, you are very welcome. And I'm really excited about today's episode because the topic of moving our pets abroad, like we always talk about, moving the kids, but the topic of moving our pets abroad is so important, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Have to make sure that you get all your ducks lined up because, sometimes people leave the move till the last minute, without. So that's where a good support of a company like ours would guide somebody through all those. I'm a dog lover. I love pets. I had cats. I'm a mum of two. I've actually lived abroad. And I know from personal experiences when we lived in Cyprus about moving animals on airline as excess baggage. So I've got a great empathy for most ways people want to discuss moving and worries because we've actually done it. And sometimes I think you need to walk those steps yourself to understand a lot of our clients' worries and things. So my boys have grown up and left home. My husband and I decided to retire to Cyprus. We lived out there for just over 3 years, but due to various things happening at home, namely grandchildren, which is always a good pull, we came back to the UK and the business is based in Nottingham.
Amazing. So you have done the journey yourself. So tell us about your business.
Yeah, so the business is actually owned by my son called Joshua. Now, he started the business in 2016 and he wanted to improve the way animals were transported because we'll get into a little bit about that later on. But he hated a panelled out van and dogs just thrown in and no care and the image of a dog man, a dog man and his van, and it had a really, really poor image. And some people still think of that as the way animals are transported, including cats. And so he wasn't enjoying the role that he was doing at work and he just decided to invest in a vehicle. He saw the problems that we had out in Cyprus with a lot of rescue dogs, and his journey began with Cypriot rescues. And then about 2018, it got so big, his business, he couldn't manage all of the elements on his own. So I stepped in to help with admin because I have a marketing background. So it was a natural sort of little move in for me. And then my husband handles a lot of the logistics. And as the company grew, we've had some fantastic volunteer drivers to keep the prices down for rescues. So we're a right little team. But really, it's just like a family-run business now, but it is owned by my son.
Amazing, amazing. What a great journey that you've been on as a family, and congratulations to your son. And who would be like your typical customer?
Well, originally, it was mostly rescues and shelters across Europe. So it could have been rescues down in Spain. It could have been like we do with Greece. All over, people move animals around, especially before COVID. And then after COVID, our customers, the whole business changed. So we are more, I would say now, 75% private, expat, retired, breeders, families just going on holiday, and the other percentage is rescues and shelters. So locally, we're quite well known. So we do a lot of that. And we'll move somebody at short notice if there was a problem or somebody had to go into a hospital or that. If you looked at my inbox, I would say most of it is private individuals, expats, retirees.
So private individuals that, have a dream of retiring somewhere a little bit warmer.
I have to say the rain has stopped. I was saying to Warner, the rain had stopped finally. So so the business, we've adapted to what our clients require. With 101, we've been quite upfront about exactly what's inside our vehicles. So on our webpage, we show the amount of investment. It can be anything from 15 to 20k just to get the aircon, the crash-resistant cages, they're insulated, ambient lighting. They're better than a Ryanair flight. Quite often when they see the van turn up, they're, oh my gosh, can I travel with you? So we've had a massive investment in, and we wanted to offer just the same for rescue as in a private individual. So it doesn't matter if you're a royal or a rescue, you're going to have the very best way you can travel. I'm really happy to see that there are a few more transporters in Spain who also have gone way out of their way to create the right environment for dogs to be transported and cats. And we've got cages large enough so dogs can stand, turn around. That's one of the biggest things I think that stand transporters apart. The DEFRA, loads of people can get a DEFRA license, but you could go and buy a panel van and put just cheap puppy training crates from Argos in them, and bungee jump them together. But that isn't, now a lot more people have got the memo and want to invest in their businesses. And then, as I say, the competition sort of realised, and so now we have a very, very friendly community. So if we can't do something, I know some transporters who would help. So over the years of experience, I've got quite a good contact for everything, apart from an elephant or a giraffe, that most things I could find somebody, even if it was an exotic animal or a zoo animal, I've got a contact that I could point somebody in the right direction. So we're all about sharing knowledge, So if I don't know, I know somebody who would know and point people in that. So that's all free. And that's just part of the sort of business that we are.
Fantastic. I absolutely love that, from rescue to royalty. That's such a nice mission statement about your business. But I would assume that, your clients love to see the condition that you keep your vans in, because that's so important to them. Their pet's a member of their family.
Sadly, you'd be amazed. People don't look inside the vans. People, but it's the same in all businesses. If somebody is cost is the only element of their inquiry, they're not going to be bothered whether it's a panelled out van, a man is illegal, he hasn't got the right licenses, or a woman is illegal, and you're putting, maybe 15 dogs all in, all mixing, doesn't care if they're inoculated, that's cheap as chips. But it's like, I often say, it's a bit like booking a hotel room. You have a premium, can't you have the penthouse, and then you can have various standards below. And so we try and cover everything. But we think we're competitively priced. Our customers tell us that we are, but there is always going to be somebody who will do it as cheap as anything. But they don't look inside the van. So that's one of the things I discuss when people are talking to me about different things. How do we know that you're legal? I've got a quote from this other company. What would you suggest we do? And then I have a very clear message to them. Check the reviews, check their recent, search the web, just Google the company name and just see what pops up. You can check with DEFRA. That's a little bit harder, but there is a whole list of transporters, type 2 transporters, which is the magic thing for Spain. You have to be a type 2 and then the equivalent in the EU for Spain as well. But DEFRA hold a list, and it is possible for people to do a bit of research and also ask pictures of inside the vehicle. Yeah. If you think about, would you put your dog has to be restrained in Spain. It can't just be loose, just like it can't in the UK. And so why would somebody put it in just in the back loose or in a puppy training crate that collapses? So if you were in an accident, that's going to collapse, and that precious little thing that you love and adore could be squashed or hurt or, So we went to a lot of bother to find somebody who would install crash-resistant cages and they're quick release as well. So if you had a bang at the back of you, we can release from the front. If you had a fire, God forbid, in the cab, we've taken precautions that we can quickly get animals out quickly like that. Say to people, just do your research. It might have all jazzy branding on, pet transport or dogs on the go or something. But the other thing is seeing cleaning fluids. Quite a lot of vans you see the animals are in their cages, but there's cleaning fluid and all sorts of things all over the place, and it's messy. That should tell you a bit of a signal as well. Maybe that's not right. You need an independent aircon, and most of the better transporters will also have electric fans. So you don't just have aircon, you have fans that are positioned, and you can view the animals as well. And our vans are insulated against intense heat and, of course, against cold. So it's a nice ambient temperature. So that's something else that people read. Oh, it's an aircon van. But if your cat is the one right at the bottom, at the back, it's not getting anything because it wasn't designed to use cab aircon for the whole of the van in July in Spain. So I'm pleased to say that, as I said earlier, that there are a few really good transporters that have excellent customizations within their van.
Amazing. And that's great insights for people to look out to, because, as you say, people just don't potentially know what to look for. But back to your customer, Amanda. So your customer, typically they're retired or moving abroad. When they come to you to inquire about using your services, what type of challenges do you usually find that they have, or what do they struggle with?
That's the regulations. Quite often, a lot of people will only speak to the receptionist at the vets and get very bad information back. A lot of misinformation about the animal health certificate is a point of pain when you're using a transporter. A lot of vets still don't realise there's a particular page 9. And so what we do is we talk our clients through what the vets, and we talk to vets as well. So that's one of the biggest thing. And then the timeline. A lot of them don't realise that they shouldn't be booking their flights until they've arranged their pet transfer.
Ah, okay.
So it has to be 5 days either side of the animal travelling. So many people say, I booked my flight for July the 4th. Well, we're full. And then, I can pass people on. As I said, I've got other contacts who might be able to accommodate it. But as you come through, we only use the Eurotunnel. Who's got more than 5 pets, we will use the ferry services. But at the Eurotunnel, we have to present all this information. So we have a travel pack for each animal, and it all has to be legal. So that is a challenge to, first of all, get them on board with the vet, and then also get them to understand the logistics. Since Brexit, people worry, can we take dog food? And the other worry is, well, will my dog be all right down there? What do I need to do? So we often give all our owners a bit of a checklist, because, of course, all the rules changed out in September, didn't they, for dogs out in Spain. You had some new regulations came out about muzzling, insurance. And, of course, the most important thing is identify your dog. And people forget that we deliver safely to a new home. And then it's got the chip hasn't been re-registered. And the dog, nobody knows the dog. There's no Spanish mobile on it. Yeah. So we suggest people have discs with the dog's name and the new mobile number on. So if it bolted out of the gate when the removals are coming, there is at least some hope that you can get your dog back. So that's why I say people, it's not quite as, it sounds like, oh, we're just moving and the dog will come or the cat will come. But we have a lot of owners with cats, and we tend to take them sometimes from a cattery. So if a big family 4-bed house is moving and the removers are there, what we often suggest, even if it's overnight, just one night, we'll go to the cattery and pick the 3, 4 or 1 cat up and transport it, and then wait, and hopefully the removals have beaten us, and then we can hand over. But if there's gaps, we also know some really, really good, a really good cattery, and we know kennels. You know, we've got a bit of an infrastructure of people we can use if there needs to be a gap. But there's always curveballs, isn't there? There's always going to be a curveball. So definitely they're very few between. Yeah.
And that would be such a reassurance for people because, you know, they're moving country, moving to a new home, leaving their old life behind, you know, then they to think about their pets and the welfare of their pets in the transition as well. So they need somebody that has done this time and time again, like yourselves, that's, you know, as you say, able to be flexible with them and give them advice, because it's not moving and uprooting your life and going from one country to the next. It's not an easy process all the time, and you have to prepare that sometimes things don't always go to plan, right?
Yeah. It's a massive trust to have, you know, they are family members. So that's something else that you'll find that I tell the clients when they're asking for quotes and wanting to know a bit about the business. Communication is key. I wouldn't give anybody my animal and then just randomly somebody say, well, I don't know where they are, and you're missing for 2 days. But believe me, there are people who've had those experiences.
Wow.
Where they think they've put an animal on to go to Spain and it's ended up going via Germany.
Okay.
You know, and all around France, you know, because it was cheap as chips, and that's the way that logistics has been worked for that route. So what we do is we set up a private chat between us and the owner, not all the owners. You have an individual one with the handler and the driver. And that way you have communication and a tracker from the minute that animal enters our vehicle to the minute it gets dropped at your house.
And that's so reassuring.
The whole time. And we have pictures, we have videos, you can see them eating. We actually stay in hotels we've got a service called the home to home service, which is exactly what it sounds like. And that is, we use pet friendly hotels on the route.
Okay.
So your dog can sleep out of the cage, it can have a proper walk, it can sleep in its bed and eat its own food, you know, and everybody is more relaxed than driving like Lewis Hamilton, you know, for 24 hours and everybody being shattered and not particularly safe. So we've just chosen to do the service slightly differently. So the home from home service is a true door to door. There's no central collections. There's no coming to meet us.
Amazing. When it comes to, I suppose, specifically Spain and relocating to Spain, because that's where, you know, the majority of our listeners are moving to, is there 3 pieces of advice that you would normally give to somebody thinking about, you know, moving their pet to Spain? So let's say I was phoning you because I was taking Teddy, who you met earlier, across to Spain, potentially from the UK. What would you tell me to think about now?
Right at the get-go, the rabies. You can't do anything with a dog, whether it's Spain or wherever, so you need rabies. So get in touch with your vet and tell them that you're moving and that you need rabies. And then once that starts, I'll know that your animal is traveling into Europe. So and then the second piece is, are you traveling with your animal? As in within the 5-day rule either side. If you're not, that's a whole different ball game and paperwork. So a really good company would be able to advise somebody moving to Spain, you know, well, maybe they go first and the animal is left with a granny, say, you know, but unfortunately, if it's outside the 5-day ruling and what we call an animal health certificate isn't sufficient, you need an export health certificate. And there's other elements of bits of paper. And then somebody like myself will be able to explain exactly what you need. So we give you a checklist. Okay. So in an ideal world, you are traveling, you have an animal health certificate, we have to have a scan of your passport, we have a scan of your flight ticket, and an authority letter for us, obviously, to be able to transport your dog. and that is handed into the pet reception at Eurotunnel. And they have a similar thing at the ferry port. So the cost is great. So they're the very key thing. You cannot move anywhere unless that rabies is done.
Okay.
So that's the first key thing. And then the other thing is important is your flight. And then, of course, having something in place and getting ready for the arrival of your animal, whether it be a cat or a dog, a safe space. And think about the logistics of, like I said, about moving and that, who's going to be around, about your dog escaping or your cat. Would it be better to pop into a kennel or a cattery?
In your experience, Amanda, do people give that part enough thought, in terms of your pets being, okay, that's interesting, right? So what would your advice be around that piece? Because that's something that I personally would also probably not given enough thought to, when you're thinking about the planning process.
I think most people have scoped out where they're going, but otherwise you wouldn't have bought the property. So the biggest thing it would be to me is, where is the nearest dog park? How secure is your patio and your veranda areas if you've got a house cat? Do you need to look for netting for a house cat? Or that, have you put one room to a side so that the dog can settle? What have you brought for the dog from home, or have we got it in our van? So quite often I'll say to people, you can bring their bedding, their toys, and we can take food. So that's, quite important that they think about that stage. Dogs like their own bowls. So let's bring the bowls, and obviously we'll have the leads and the harnesses and things. And with cats as well, litter trays, indoor litter, and litters are different in Spain. You can get organic litter. So there's a lot of thought. What would you like us to bring? And what can you get locally?
And my next question that I wanted to really explore with you is, with yourselves and priding yourselves on ensuring that your vehicles are so good and the service that you provide to your clients and to the animals is so good. I guess you're experts. If people were exploring who to use when it comes to relocating their pets, what would you really encourage them to look out for as they started to talk to different service providers?
How quick they come back with their communication in your first inquiry. In all business, if you're waiting 2 or 3 days for an email, that gives you some sort of indication that maybe when you're going to be asking questions, that may not be the company that you want to use. Because most owners, I find, need to know pretty much straight away whether you can accommodate. If you can't do a certain date and you've all got dates in your mind, that's another reason people like move on or go somewhere else. But the biggest thing I think is communication. It's a big red flag if you've waited a week for somebody to pick up. But in defense of some transporters, they're working round the clock, and so maybe they don't pick up their emails until they finish a long drive. If somebody's driving 10 or 12 hours, but most companies will have some admin backup. So that's pretty important, the communication. Well, at least you could call somebody and somebody answers the phone, speak to somebody. I think you get a lot of information from even a quick 1-minute call. You get a sense of what a business is about, how they are on the phone to you. And I always say, some people say, I've got some really stupid questions. I say, there's never a stupid question. We like questions. The more you ask, you'll get to know about our business. So I would say the first thing is communication. And the second thing is to make sure they're legal. But unfortunately, that's not as easy as it sounds. But most companies on their websites will tell you what they've got. And if they don't mention things, then that's another red flag. Okay. So, or just to give a quick list, you have to be a DEFRA Type 2. You have to be the equivalent within the EU. And if you've got a 3.5-ton vehicle, one of the big vans, like the long wheelbase vans that you see, you have to have an international operator's license, and you have to have a transport manager. That's part of the new EU regulations. So that costs an awful lot of money to make sure you're compliant. And I can tell you, I've sat at the Eurotunnel and seen practically probably 90% of the vans aren't legal. They do not have their international operator's license.
There's so much there to think about in itself, in terms of the different legislation and rules that you should look out for your handler to have. I don't think people would genuinely know that unless they had really, really researched it well. Amazing.
No, you're right. It's like you put the trust. This is where I come back to trust again. Put the trust when you jump on an aeroplane, you expect it to have an aviation license, don't you? You expect the captain, you expect the seats and the seatbelts to work and the loo to function. You don't expect one of the engines not to work, but you believe me, the amount of vehicles that break down, and we have people that say their animals have been left stranded or their trips have been cancelled because these vehicles do thousands and thousands of miles. We've just now put one out to pasture, if you like, that has gone to somebody who's got 6 dogs, and that had done nearly 300,000 miles on a 2018 plane. So we've updated. We haven't run that till it breaks down on the way to Spain with people's pets in and go, oh, you'll have to drive and collect them yourself.
Absolutely. Amanda, in your personal opinion, and being an expert that you are in this area, is there any favourite tip that you have that you like to, I suppose, advise people to think about when they're maybe in the process of relocating their pets?
Stop worrying. The owners worry far more than the animals. The animals are fine majority of the time. It's terrible, worrying all the while, just trust in the process, that you're trusting, you've chosen a business, you've done all your background checks, you've done all your due diligence, and then just put the trust in that company to honour what they've told you is the service that they're offering. So food, I always say put their favourite treats and food in. We like to know about our animals. We'll ask people about their animals. And I love to know, we love their names. We want to see pictures of them, what their quirks are. So like Teddy, I'd ask you to tell me about Teddy. We want to know, some dogs don't like walks. Some dogs just like to snooze.
I'm laughing because the minute you said Teddy walk, I think he heard it and he's like, no walk.
Yeah, so I just relax about it.
Amazing. And that's so true. So I love that. Don't worry. And we do worry. We worry about our pets, as you say.
Worry about worrying. But if you're not worrying, you're worried why you're not worried.
Yeah, exactly. And is there anything else, Amanda, that you'd like to share before we start to conclude? Any final words of wisdom?
Registering the chip for the cats and the dogs when you're in your new country. Finding out what the local laws are. Because, of course, depending where you are, some dog parks have to have muzzles, don't they? Trains, Do check that you're just being sensible and nobody's going to be upset with you or your animal. I think get the most expensive collar against leishmania and the flea and ticks because of the weather with you guys in Spain. Sort of be sensible about the weather. Watch out for excessive panting. And the other key thing is know where your vet is and what the opening times are.
Absolutely. I'm conscious that vets in Spain do take siesta as well, right? So, you have, as a UK pet owner, you might be used to a different operating timetable. So that's great to mention as well, because they do have a different schedule here.
Because it's always when you've got an emergency, isn't it? Or something where I don't know where the vet is or I haven't registered with the vet. It's really, really important.
And to do that first.
Different times of the year, you've got those caterpillars, haven't you, at the moment as
well?
Yes,
we do.
What are they called? Caterpillars are called?
Oh, I can't remember the formal name for them.
They're called procession caterpillars because they can really hurt cats.
They're
and they can
so dangerous. They're fatal for dogs. They can make small children and the elderly really sick, but they're actually fatal for dogs and cats.
A big key thing is you're not in England. You might feel some of the areas because it's a lot of expats. But do remember you're in a foreign country and just do your research and be sensible. Especially how hot their paws are on the tarmac and the pavements.
Absolutely.
That would be my key things. And obviously you want to enjoy your new home, your retirement or your holiday, don't you?
In general, in Spain, they love dogs. So you have loads of dog facilities. You do have to use your head, because you are in a different country where it gets super hot. You wouldn't walk yourself out in the middle of the day in your bare feet on the ground. So you shouldn't expect your pet to do that either. No. So you do absolutely have to just think a little bit and get used to your new routine. But it's been incredible to speak to you. If any of our listeners would like to get in touch with you, Amanda, how do they do that?
We have, can I give you the phone number? For the WhatsApp, 07919 898986. The email is info@101petexpress.com. And our website is 101petexpress.com. As I said, if we can't accommodate, I'm very, very happy to help give alternative companies that we know are trusted, and we're happy to recommend.
It's been amazing. I've learned loads, especially on, I guess, what to think about if I am thinking about transferring my pet. But thank you, Amanda. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening into today's episode on the Costa Property Podcast. Another fantastic episode learning about the highs and lows of relocating to the Costa del Sol from real people who have been through the journey themselves, and of course our wonderful experts. If you have been enjoying the show so far, remember to hit subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating or review.
We absolutely love hearing your thoughts. Please send any questions that you would like us to answer on the show to warner@wlcostaproperties.net. Or you can pop us a message on our socials, which are in the show notes. Remember, you can also visit the website, www.wlcostaproperties.net.
See you on the next episode, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.